Well, I'm sorry to my regular viewers that it's been over a week since I put out a video, but just got a little busy with some other things I had to do around the house. Haven't stopped me from getting a whole bunch of cool things at the door this past week, though, and well, there's now a video for it. So we've got everything from Greenlight. I've got too much Greenlight to do an individual review on each series that's come out right now, and just because of not making a video this week on them. So we're going to put them all together as one with M2. Some Auto World finds that I got, and a whole bunch of cool old vintage Hot Wheels. Some extremely rare ones as always, and even some really old Matchbox Lesnies. So let's take a look at all this stuff quick if you like. First up, I'd like to just talk about this Since 68 Heavy Chevy I just picked up. This is the rarest Since 68 car that came out back in 2008 for the 40th anniversary of Hot Wheels cars. They had a whole series named Since 68, and it had 40 cars in it as well to commemorate those 40 years of Hot Wheels. Here's the whole list of cars that came out if you want to pause on that. This Heavy Chevy was number 5 of those 40, and each of the 40 cars only came in one color variation. There was no variations really of them, other than a 40 car set that came out. And let's take a look at that right now. Here it is. And there's the Heavy Chevy in its alternate color for the 40 car set, as well as 39 other amazing cars. So this is one extra cool car. It's very heavy, it's all metal, features the white, silver, blue pinstriping, metal base, and the ultra cool Blackwall wheels. You can see the exhaust coming out under the front fenders and the blown motor. So I was really happy to get that car. It's the hardest one to find, like I said, and typically not a cheap one to find when you do find it. That one set me back around 40 American dollars. The next most coveted piece of this collection that I picked up recently was this Baja Breaker from 1984 featuring white hub Real Rider wheels and an opening plastic hood on it as well, metal base, the A-Team Tampo decoration on the side, otherwise solid black. This van also came out in 1984 with gray hub wheels. This is one from my personal collection already, and also featured an opening hood, otherwise identical. Lots of cool history on these Baja Breakers, which are based on a 1970s Ford Econoline van, and some interesting variations, including this Blackwall version, which came out in the main line back in 1984, featuring also the opening hood, but with the Blackwall wheels. That's the only difference there. This version, which looks identical and just does not feature an opening hood, it's now been cast shut. This was a new casting release for the Baja Breaker in 1989, so this is a 1989 version if you have the one with the hood that does not open. Otherwise, pretty much identical. And I think the bases are even the same. I think they're both Malaysia base. We've got Malaysia on that one and Malaysia on that one. Yeah, so not any big differences there. Interesting, just a side note here, that the Baja Breaker shares the same base as the Bywayman. So you can kind of see the resemblance. Well, they're identical, so just something cool. It was a generalization of the castings, probably as a cost-cutting method, but still made a lot of cool different vehicles with similar bases. This was also seen in the Super Van, but that's a whole nother story we'll get into at a casting-specific video. One side note as well is that this van has been on my hunt list for years now, literally years, and the last time it came up about 2 years ago, I missed the opportunity. For some reason, I just missed it by about 5 minutes when I was about to bid on it, and it sold for something like $100. Well, I ended up getting this van for 40 American dollars in a buy it now or best offer. I didn't even think to put in a best offer with that kind of price, because not a week later I saw it just randomly came up again. It seems this happens from time to time, and it sold for, look at how much it sold for, just insane. So if you do come across this van, it is worth substantially more than the gray hub Real Rider version, which is typically worth around $10 to $20. And speaking of Bywaymans, I just couldn't help myself. I picked this one up. I already have a version of it, but I think the Tampo on this one's a little better. Lots of variations with these, including the white hub Real Rider variation. There's the toolbox variation, which I think we've discussed in previous version or videos. And there's even actually a headlight variation. I don't collect the headlight variation. It's just too small. I don't notice it when they're on my shelves. But some of these vehicles have smaller headlights, and the other ones have the large headlights, such as this one here. In the back, you'll see a trio of Omni 024s. These are Dodge Omnis. Very authentic casting of a tiny little economy car of the time, 1981. I picked up this package version of the blue one. This is probably one of the hardest color variations to find of the three. And these are the three for the North American market. There are, of course, the international color variations when you're starting to look at cars from India and Mexico and whatnot. But really happy to get this nice packaged version. I may end up opening it. I don't really know yet. I already do have a loose one, and it is in really nice shape, other than a couple little chips, as you can see, on the side of the fender and the door. But this is a really cool little car, all metal. It's got the plastic taillights as part of the interior. Omni 024 Hot Wheels Hong Kong. It says 1980. I do believe these were released in 81. The blue one was released the same time as the silver one. This is one from my personal collection I just brought forward to have a look at. Same thing. And the silver one you'll also find with a Malaysia base variation. It was re-released again probably a couple of years after the initial 1981 release. And here's a 1983 release of the Omni. This would be the final release in the North American mainline market. Nice little gold metal flake type version with a yellow and purple tampo on it. And this one features a Hong Kong base. Here's a few fairly vintage cars. These are Thunderstreak, that's the name of the casting. And at the back you'll notice, well, the first four have a low flat spoiler on the back, or wing. Whereas the last two that we look at, featuring pretty much the same, a lot of the same body components and chassis components, now feature a integral cast high spoiler, as you can see the difference right there. And this one is known as the Thunderstreak Indy. At least as far as collectors' guides go, because it gets quite confusing when you just look up Thunderstreak and find cars with a low wing as well as the cars with a high wing. The cars with a low wing were only released up until 1989, I believe, with the Ziploc promotionals being the final versions of this casting. And from 1988 forwards, these high wing Indy versions were quite prolific well into the mid-90s, I believe, and maybe even beyond that. Haven't really gotten into collecting those too much, other than this interesting little Krakow or Krakow variation that we're going to look at in just a second here. But we'll start with the Ziplocs. These came as a promotional car that would have come with a box of Ziploc baggies if you bought them at the grocery store. And much like the toothpaste cars, they're not overly valuable and quite common actually, but that's only true for the common variation. As it turns out, this neon green variation, you can see the plastic is quite a bit brighter on this one than it is on this one. The bright plastic variation, very easy to come by, probably only worth about $1 or $2. This dark green variation, however, I ended up forking over $30 for it. And another car that's been on my hunt list for a long time that I actually didn't think I would ever come across. But lucky me, there it is. Over here, I've just got this one out from my collection as well to kind of fill in the blanks here. This is a 1988 mainline version of the Formula Fever, or Thunderstreak, sorry. I think it was called the Formula Fever at some point along the line, but anyways, we'll call it the Thunderstreak for now. There is no name on the base, just a copyright and a date. But this one's about a $1 or $2 car, very common to find with the blue metal painted base or body, the yellow plastic body surround, and the metal base. This version here, I don't have any information on it. I couldn't find anything in a whole lot of searching. I did buy it. It cost me, I think, $27, and that was loose. The only difference being the body is red and missing the STP tampo on the nose of the car. Otherwise, pretty much exactly the same. The base has got some blanked out spots on it where it would have said the country of origin. And it doesn't have the Hot Wheel logo. So I'm thinking this one might be an international release car. Either way, it looks amazing. I'm going to put it in with my 1988 car because of the extreme resemblance. And here we have another car that resembles very much the very common 1988 version. This is a 1989 India. So this is a Leo. This is an actual Leo car made in India for the Indian, or the market of India, and possibly some other nations, but as far as I know, these are just known as Leos. The base doesn't have a country on it at all. Everything's upside down here, but you get the point. The only difference being the chassis with the high metal spoiler. Another hard car to find, and I did see it packaged sell at a later date for $74. I think I spent over $30 for this one loose. Had I known it was a Leo, I probably wouldn't have bought it because I don't really collect Leos. There's just too many color variations, but still kind of cool. Not disappointed or anything. Here we've got a 1997 Hormel Foods promotional car, another item that would have probably been found in a grocery store, maybe a box of doggy food or cereal, I have no idea. But 1997 was the release date on this, very common car. It's only worth about $1 or $2, so we're not going to go any more into detail about it than that. Another car we'll just quickly get out of the way that ended up being common. I thought maybe at first when I bought it, it would be rare. I didn't spend a lot on it though. Is this Thunderburner, which was released in a Hot Wheels 2-pack, racing 2-pack from 1997, and the other car was a black Buick Stalker with yellow interior and yellow tampos. That set is quite easy to come across and cheap. This car was released in the mainline, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but for the mainline number, but it didn't have the Hot Wheels logo on the top. It did have the Mattel logos and racing tampos on the sides, and it also in the mainline didn't feature this removable racing driver who hangs out the driver's side window. He actually comes out, but he's in there pretty good. He does come out though. Anyways, so that's a pretty, you know, I should be able to get that one for about $1 or $2 actually. I'm still happy I got it, and these cars are all metal. I think it's known as the Velocitor for this series, but as you can see on the base, it was called the 81 Thunderburner, based on a Ford Thunderbird of the early 80s, I'd say 1980, 81. Really cool car in real life, and a cool casting that does really well on the racetrack if you ever have a couple extras of these, just because of the weight of it and the width of the wheels. It really hugs the corners well, so nice car. Happy to add it to the collection. And it is here that we now depart from the Hot Wheels and look at some Matchbox and Lesnies. I've only got 4 to show you. These are Mitsubishi Gallants. Really interesting old cars from the Superfast era. Gallant Eterna, it's called, 1978. Features opening doors on the spring mounts, as you can see. Also features really nice suspension. Typical with the old Matchbox. A lot of nice body roll characteristics that you don't get in the new cars, and I just love this. It's not something you see. You did see it in the Yatmings. But the old Matchbox, all metal, got 2 color variations. One's lime green, one's more of an emerald green. They both built exactly the same, metal base. This one's more of a flat black. Really nice shape, same wheels. Opening doors as well in this one. This car is an interesting car with quite a bit of history when I actually started looking it up. It is very similar to the Dodge Colt of the era back in 1978, and which actually in itself was very similar to a Dodge Challenger. So these cars all resembled basically each other back then. I've got a few pictures here of the actual car just so you can see. These are Dodges that you're looking at, even though the Matchbox version that we just looked at is based on a Mitsubishi because of the Gallant name stamp, whereas obviously not being called a Dodge Colt or a Dodge Challenger. Anyways, just a nice little side note, a little historical factoid based on these very authentic, realistic looking cars. Moving on, we're looking at the 1960s Studebaker wagon with a boat trailer and an old little Cuddy Cruiser or something in tow. But look at another, as I always like to compare to the Hitch and Tows that Greenlight has out. Here's one of the throwbacks to Hitch and Tows, I would say. A lot of Matchbox Lesney cars of this era in the 60s and 70s came with a little plastic hitch, which was actually quite sturdily built and could pull a whole bunch of different Matchbox trailers that were available at the time. And Anyways, this car is a very common one. It's obviously in bad shape. I just picked it up because I love it. It's actually a Studebaker Lark wagon. I believe it's a Studebaker. Just dumped the boat there, of course. Studebaker Lark wagon, made in England, number 42. The boat and trailer, most often you just find the boat. Doesn't have anything on it, or sorry, the trailer. The boats are hard to come by because they're all just plastic. So one step from Pa's slipper and that thing's just a whole bunch of little useless shards. Whereas the trailers were a bit more robust, being made of metal. Those ones were released from 1963 to 1964, but Next we're looking at a Lesney King Size. This is K13 of the collection. It's a ready mix concrete truck, produced from 1963 through to 1970. It featured the separate plastic hard tires on the rims, all metal construction, rotating cement mixer on the back. I have a really beat up version of these, missing this part. This one's in pretty good shape. The tampos are legible. It's got a little bit of filth on the inside of the windows, but probably nothing more than a Q-tip could fix up. The paint's nice on it. Still got the spout, the concrete spout on the back, and of course all of its tires, which is always essential. But let's take a quick look at a mint version. This is what it would look minty, and here it is with its packaging. So nice truck to add to my collection. And as you can see, the scale, even next to this brand new Greenlight Chevy truck that we're going to be looking at in just a second, the scale is right. You know, we've got the right scale here. Here's the much later produced 1978 Mitsubishi, and let's just throw in, for the fun of it all, a Hot Wheels Baja Breaker. You can see that the scale is quite appropriate for all these very much 1/64 scale vehicles, and I absolutely love that as part of my collection, is sticking as closely as possible to 1/64 scale, just so that everything looks right together. And now looking at these Greenlight exclusives. These are dealer exclusives, limited editions of the 2015 Chevy Silverado. This is a brand new casting from Greenlight, just released in this past month, November, December 2015. Here are the two vehicles in the packaging as you would get them as part of the exclusives. This truck hasn't been released before. We've seen lots of the Dodge Rams, but now we've finally got a Chevy to add to the mix. Now just waiting on a Ford would be really nice. And then we could have the whole three set for a nice big old pissin match. But this one here is limited edition of one of 1,250. I was able to find these online from a couple different sellers. Do carry them, not too many, and they do tend to sell out rather quickly. So you want to get on those before they're gone if you want one of these vehicles. Here's the back. It's got a little history of the Silverado. 96 years of Chevy truck know-how. Yeah, look at that. Really cool graphics, and that's why I had to buy two. Not only because they're so cool, but both are the same. This one's got the charcoal version of the truck on the packaging. Also one of 1,250. I've got some fairly low numbers on these ones, actually. I've got 382 and about 297 on that one. They come with a box, little plastic toolbox in the back, the hitch, so they're compatible with the hitch and tow vehicles, and lots of detail. As you can see, I really don't need to repeat everything that you're looking at on the camera. Rubber tires, and they roll quite nicely. Best thing too is they hitch right up to your trailers. As seen here, we have the red truck hooked up to a Greenlight boat and trailer. Pretty nice, pretty nice. And over here, we got the charcoal version one hooked up to my old Lesney Matchbox boat and trailer. So, looks like we got a wheel that's not rolling there, but I'm sure we can fix that. Now I'm going to dart a little bit all over the board on this one as far as manufacturers go, because I've got lots of cool Greenlights to look at. But I've also got some cool old Auto Worlds to look at. And we're obviously going to just take a look at one of these, but look at all the wagons I just picked up. Isn't that awesome? Those are going to be becoming part of a forthcoming Demolition Derby video that will be produced this winter, and it's going to be epic. So stay tuned for that. It's been 2 years in the making. I do intend to get serious about this and finish it up. Pre-production has begun, as has obviously acquirement of vehicles. Anyways, let's start out with some all-terrain Greenlights. We'll just quickly go through these. They're pretty cool. And we've also got the V-Dub series, Series 2 to look at. So these are all new for November and December of this year, fairly new, they're not brand new anymore. Now, as many of you know, I am a big fan of the Greenlight All-Terrain series, and I think a lot of you guys are as well. 66 Ford Bronco, we're going to be cracking all of these trucks. 2014 Ram 1500 Sport. This is Series 2 of the release. There's already been one wave of vehicles. The 75 Ford Bronco, 2012 Jeep Wrangler, 2015 Chevy Silverado. There it is in the lifted version. We just looked at those exclusives. This is its first release in the all-terrain series. Here's the 1977 Plymouth Trail Duster. So a couple of these castings were released in the Series 1 and have got a repaint and some detailed differences, but overall a wholeheartedly worthwhile set to pick up if you are collecting off-road trucks. All the vehicles that have opening components or removable components I've taken off or opened for this first initial view of the vehicles, just so we're clear on what is opening and what isn't. Really cool Jeep here. Look at the details on this grille. We've got orange outlines on it. It's the Wrangler. Looks like the Black Widow version or something. I don't know. It's orange wheels. I haven't seen a Jeep like this before. Maybe it's something new I'm just not completely aware of, even though I am a Jeep owner. Maybe I'm not up to it. Up on my snuff here as far as what's available as far as limited edition versions. But as far as Greenlight goes, they've got their bases covered with this removable hardtop here. And it rolls beautifully. It's got the 5th rubber tire on the back and lots of details like we've seen before on this vehicle. It's not a new casting. It's just always nice to see it come out in another Tampo and paint variation. Moving right along to this Plymouth Trail Duster. Nice new color and paint Tampo variation. Charcoal gray with the black Tampo and Plymouth. Very clear Tampos on this thing. You can't get much clearer. Beautiful detailed wheels and all the details that you would expect from these vehicles. So this one's got a really nice opening hood as well as detailed grille. Just gorgeous castings, really. Very solid, heavy metal, and I really like that one. It'll be nice if they come out with a version back with the roof. I like the hard top. It'd be nice if it came with the hard top just like the Jeep does. Just to give it that kind of more street blazer look, fall time driving perhaps. And here's a couple Broncos. They both feature the opening hood. The casting is actually the same, but through the ingenuity of Greenlight, they're able to provide lots of variations just with subtle additional parts. Part of the reason why these vehicles are made up of so many parts is because of how interchangeable things are in the ability to give them multiple year variations and style variations of these vehicles. So we've got a nice opening hood on that one. It looks a little crooked there, but I think it just came off the hinge. It wasn't crooked when I first opened it, so there we go. Must just have one loose hinge, but that's no big deal. It's got the race suspension, as you can see. A lot of these off-road all-terrain vehicles do. Fifth rubber tire on it. But for customizers, that means it's real easy. You can take this whole chassis off and add it to a different vehicle of the same wheelbase length. Or just lower this one down back to stock height by using the original stock drill holes, which I do believe are in the chassis if you were to look past this tire. Here's one with the hard top or soft top on it, but it's not removable as far as I can tell. Love these Broncos though. These are just awesome. Awesome Broncos. And we'll look at the last one with a removable part here. It doesn't have an opening hood. This is the Dodge Ram with the lifted suspension. Once again, you can see it's a removable or interchangeable suspension components. It's got the jerry cans on the back and the taillight guards, the big aftermarket bumper with the moved up spare tire location, front push bar, skid plates, and fog lights. The wheels are kind of small for it, but hey, you could easily get some bigger wheels and stick it on there if you want. And it comes with this nice little plastic removable tonneau cover, which gives it a real clean look. So I really like that Dodge. And the new casting of the bunch for this release is the Chevy. Look at that. 4 headlights across the front, aftermarket bumper for extra clearance. And it's got a stock bumper on the back. Look, it's even got the little step holes there for when you're stepping up on your back bumper. Look at that detail. It's just quite nice. Roll bar, probably removable, and some slick looking wheels on it. So really like this all-terrain series, and looking forward to many new ones. Let's get over on into looking at some of these V-dubs before we look at those wagons and just a couple M2s that I picked up. Now this is a particularly interesting release of Greenlight vehicles, the V-dub series. I don't recall them being released in extremely limited quantities in the first series or first wave. However, these ones have a worldwide limited edition run of 3,000. Let's look at one that isn't behind another card. 3,000 units available worldwide in each of these vehicles of all 6. And unlike, for instance, the all-terrain, which could be up to probably 9 or 10,000 released in total, these ones are going to be automatically far harder to come by because of that limited production run. The packaging is pretty much the same on all of them. It's got this really nice collection of V-dubs with promise of a rabbit coming. Wow. Can't wait. And a thing. We got a thing coming. New Beetle, or relatively new Beetle I should say. And I think that's a Karmann Ghia. I'm not sure exactly. They come with a Volkswagen officially licensed by Volkswagen sticker on each one. Otherwise the packages are the same. The vehicles are extraordinary though. I'm not really sure we're going to open these up right now, not only due to time constraints, but because of the limited run I might just hold on to these in the package for a little bit longer. And really I have nowhere to put these cars anyways. I just open them up to show you guys, and then they go onto this massive overpopulated junkyard that needs to be cleaned off. So next up we got the Volkswagen Type 2 Campmobile with the raised camper. Really cool. Campground Host, River Valley George Camping and Recreation. Nice little castings. Just love these little Volkswagens. I know there's a lot of Volkswagens made by all of the manufacturers as far as M2 and Greenlight and Auto World. This one seems to have a buggered up wheel, which I'm probably not totally enthused about. May have to open up just to see what's going on there. Hopefully it's repairable. The wheel should not be that far forward in the rear fender, I don't believe. Just look at this one quickly. Yeah, it should be more centered and a little bit lower. So we'll have a look at that. Probably be able to pull it out though. But I mean, as far as wanting to keep these vehicles in the package, this is one of the things you face. If you do come across a abnormal little minor defect, you may want to open it up just to rectify it, and then you'll get the contagion in you and you want to open them all. So that's what happens to me anyways. So the first 3 are vans, the last 3 are different variations of the Volkswagen Beetle. Here's a 1949 split window. These are extremely rare cars to find in real life now. It's got a separate engine cover on the back and looks like an opening trunk space on the front. I think it goes without saying that these Volkswagen Beetles have their engines in the back, if you think that I don't know what I'm talking about. These old Beetles always had the engines in the back, which the new Beetles do not. So maybe some of the younger fans weren't aware of that. I'm not sure. Hopefully I'm not stating the obvious here too much. Look at the roof rack luggage on this thing. Really like that. Nice white walls on it. Classic Volkswagen Beetle. One left to look at. 1952 Volkswagen Type 1 split window. Nice dish hubcaps on it. Very simple looking black paint job. Really like that collection. Probably going to end up opening them now that I've looked at them. For now, let's move on to some Auto World wagons. Now these wagons you're looking at are not a brand new addition to my collection. I already had one of these at least, I think 2 from when they were first released a couple of years ago. But I've since picked up a whole lot more because I'm going to be doing some custom work on these things. And I just love wagons. So in particular, there's going to be a whole lot of demolition derby cars coming out of these units. These ones will be disassembled and repainted for demolition derby purposes and or junkyard purposes. That's why I bought so many of them. They are not for trade, they're not for sale, I'm sorry to say. As you can see, I've got quite an extensive Auto World collection. These are not new to my collection. Lots of cool cars from Auto World. the former producers or designers anyways of Johnny Lightning, which is actually returning in 2016. It has been confirmed, and I am greatly looking forward to it, but I hope not at the expense of these Auto Worlds, because I actually like the Auto Worlds better than I like the Johnny Lightnings. And the final two cars I wanted to look at are these M2 store purchases that I got. These are the baselines of M2, meaning they don't have any opening parts. There are many parts still used to make these cars, as is indicated on the back. 20 individual parts and pieces minimum. However, the more authentic versions are somewhere between 40 and 48 parts. These are still really cool cars with white wall tires, authentic paint schemes that were actually released at the time of the automobile's release. They're not funky colors that you wouldn't expect to see on these cars back in the day. Got a 57 Chevy Bel Air and a 57 Ford Fairlane. This was a car that actually sat and decomposed in my grandmother's driveway for about 25 or 30 years. It was blue and white, so I'm a particular fan of that car. Probably going to end up customizing it to look exactly like that driveway wreck, and I have fond memories of climbing all over and through that car. So we've got the clamshell packaging off of the car. As you can see, much like the Auto Worlds, very authentically proportioned tires on this car, and lots of cool details, including chrome plastic bumpers and headlights and emblems. So small that you almost don't even notice them when they're in the packaging. Really nice cars. We'll take a quick look at that Bel Air before I end up whipping these things off the base and painting them covered in rust, which is something I really would like to do. Check out that. It's even got a raised casting for the tampo on Bel Air in the back. Really nice cars. And that pretty much rounds out my Hot Wheel slash Matchbox slash whatever haul video for this month. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry I've been behind on my videos. There's lots more to make. I've just been kind of busy with some other stuff, but I will get to it all. And best wishes this holiday season. I hope everyone's has a happy season upcoming and gets all the cars that they ever wanted.